Hello all, it is Monday morning, October 26th, 2018. This is the Hardy Complex, the one place for everything and anything you don't want to see or know or hear. Or I guess the one place for everything and anything you don't want to hear. I am Zach Hardy, joined by Booth Guy, joined by Sound Guy. Wanted to talk about a multitude of different things in this show. And a bunch of them I kind of feel will be like a ramble on, so I don't even know if I'll be able to get to every single thing that I have in mind this weekend, or at least over this weekend, or fuck, you get the point. But I want to talk about evolution before I talk about anything, because I did a brimstone in a nutshell last night, and I didn't do an evolution in a nutshell, and it's been 7 hours since that. I've gotten almost no sleep and a cup of coffee in my system, so I feel like now it's kind of very apparent that this was going to be the conversation, or at least a topic of conversation on the show, and I kind of want to open the show with it, since it is such a monumental kind of occasion. I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was a show that brought more to the table for a specific audience that I thought it was going to kind of steer away from. You know, I had more of like an all women's NXT takeover feel to it than I thought of it as a all women's WWE pay-per-view. It was really well-rounded. I think there was a lot of positives here. I mean, there are things that I could have changed, sure. Like, I don't think Nikki should have gotten as much offense as she had on Ronda. I don't know if I would have put Trish and Lita against Mickey and Alicia in the opener. I would have given Tony and Io a lot longer than 10 minutes. But aside from those little kind of nitpicks with that, I thought it was a really well-rounded show. I think there was a lot to take out of it. The Battle Royal, I think, was a spot for opportunities for character development, which I enjoyed. I like that Tamina and Nia both got the proper positioning. I think, excuse me, alright, I mean, when it comes down to the WWE, if there is one of the following: a fat woman, a tall woman, or a really short woman, or a really skinny woman, they're most likely going to have like a separate kind of category when booking. It's weird to kind of think about. I mean, especially since, I guess, the female body in wrestling is not really looked at as something that can be sculpted in the way that men's bodies are looked at. So there's a different kind of position of thought that people take towards it. And with that, it's like you see a tall guy, or a short guy, or a fat guy, or a skinny guy, and you don't really think much of it, you know, because it's like, all right, that's just a dude. You know, you're not gonna be put into a position if you're tall that makes you look like a monster, you know. And I think another kind of position of it is that the female body is, I guess, more petite than the male body is, so a lot of people have this assumption that a taller woman or a larger woman is out of the ordinary and therefore has to be this, like, kind of like footnote for a performer. Like, it's like, they can be great on the mic, they can be great in the ring, but at the same time, along with those characteristics, tall is also listed as like an accomplishment, which I don't get. But since Nia and Tamina are, I'm not gonna say larger in terms of fat, you know, that's not what I'm trying to get at all. But they're on the larger and taller end of the spectrum of the women's roster than a lot of people are. And so with that, they're kind of booked as these two beasts of the women's division. And I mean, I don't have a problem with it being Tamina and Nia, since it makes the most sense that the daughter of such a charismatic performer would kind of get like a standout, and the same would go for Nia from the lineage of her family. It would make sense that they would both kind of have a footnote, or they would get like a single in the spotlight kind of thing. Like Ronda, did mixed martial arts, and she gets like her own kind of position on the card. She has her own thing. So when they're in the battle royal, I think it's nice to see them both kind of have this moment where they're in the ring at the same time, and clearing house, and then just having a fucking just a knockdown, drag out fight. I liked Zelina's character development. Her just sliding underneath the ring and continuing with that cautious mindset of I'm going to pick my poison and choose my opportunities, which almost worked, but didn't in the end. I hope she's feeling all right, considering I think it was her head that just bounced off of the outside area after getting chucked over the top rope. So yeah, hope she's doing all right. And with the remainder of the show, there's a lot of character build-up. There was a lot of character development. I think Becky, once Charlotte kind of kept, like, rose from the ashes of the broken down foreign objects and all the weaponry spots. I think Becky kind of saw the resilience and was not expecting that ahead of time. So the facial expressions that she had to offer in the match with Charlotte, like this proportionate disbelief, was fantastic. It was perfectly executed. I'm trying to kind of pick out smaller little details of the match. I liked Io Shirai's more like ground-based work against Toni Storm, and I liked the fact that Toni Storm was trying to hold her own, but at the end was kind of like overwhelmed a little bit by Shirai's offense on the ground, which I don't think Toni tends to be very used to, having the majority of a match be where she's weakened down by ground-based offense. I think there's a mix of like ground-based offense. There's I call it self-Irish whipped offense, where it's you constantly utilize the propulsion of yourself off of the ropes, for like things like clotheslines and drop kicks and big boots. There's corner work, there's outside work, there's ring apron work. So ground-based offense does not usually tend to be the overwhelming majority of a Toni Storm match, and I like that there was this sense of versatility that you could see. And overall, I think the show as a whole was a great step forward. Now, there are some things that I gripe about with WWE. They are real pompous assholes when it comes down to things like advertising Crown Jewel during the show. And I said on Twitter, or I think I said on Twitter something along the lines of like, how the WWE manages to fuck up their own shit in such a WWE-ish way is beyond me. But advertising your blood money pay-per-view that women aren't allowed to be on during a women's pay-per-view, the first ever all women's pay-per-view, is kind of stupid, and it doesn't make me want to tune into Crown Jewel any more than I already did, which was I didn't want to. That, and also the allusion to, especially during the Nikki Bella match, the idea that the women's revolution started in WWE. For one, I mean, I don't have a problem with, with them talking about it, but the fact of the matter is, for one, it's a lie, since it started in NXT. Now, this isn't the point I'm trying to get at, but while Nikki Bella was having her sister swap spit with AJ Lee to pick up the Divas title, the Four Horsewomen of WWE were putting on killer matches on takeovers for the NXT Women's Championship down in NXT. So if you're gonna bring up where it started or where its real footnotes were, either give them the truth, and don't try to make this different than it was. Don't try to rewrite history. And at the same time, don't bring it up at all, because you're not going to say that it started in NXT. So if you're not going to give it the respect of the truth that it deserves, don't use it. Simple as that. I think it takes away when you have to lie about its starter points, you know? Yeah. That's just my take on it. But aside from that, I just thought it was a really good show. I thought it was a great step forward towards a bright future for the women in WWE and in the remainder of pro wrestling that I guess doesn't really get a lot of credit. USW ended up bringing up a women's division at the beginning of this year, and it's started to skyrocket now. So you can definitely see the impact of women's wrestling in 2018 growing more so than it has ever before, and that's a great thing, you know. So, you know, congratulations to all the women that were involved in the Evolution pay-per-view. I thought you guys did a fantastic job. Hold your heads up high on this one. Whether you competed on the night, whether you had a big spot on the night, whether you just kind of showed up and it was like what most people would do for a payday, you know, take pride in what you did. You know, that was your night. Savor it. It's an opportunity that, you know, I hope becomes plentiful, and I hope in the future is done right, you know, by being given the proper care and the proper respect. I mean, you had a custom stage, but that's basically anything, all the special shit that you gave it, other than, you know, a steel barricade. So, excuse me. So yeah, I don't want to be to the point now where if we get to an Evolution pay-per-view around this time next year, that it's, you know, advertised largely for the first time less than a week before the show goes on. So, yeah. Also, I think a nice note to have is the fact that I'm not going to be watching Crown Jewel, but I did watch Evolution. So I think it's a very kind of telling case. And I think a lot of WWE fans are now kind of getting on the fact that, of the WWE's bullshit. I think they're finally catching on. But, you know, for something like this to enthrall people, even like me, that gave up hope on WWE and rarely, if ever, watch WWE shows anymore, you know, I think at that point in time, if you can capture that attention and you can capture the attention of a lot of people that have, you know, commonplace given up on WWE, it is a big thing for that, and it is a big thing for the topic as a whole. I think women's wrestling is alive. I think women's wrestling is well. I think it is going to be a fantastic point going forward, that women are a huge piece of this program and a huge piece of this industry, and you know, I'm glad they're getting the respect that they deserve, and it was a great show. So to all those that were involved, hold your heads up high. You did a fantastic job. You set a change in motion for the industry as a whole, and be proud of that. Be proud of everything that you've accomplished. It's a big deal. It's a big thing. It's a huge accomplishment. It's a huge achievement. It's a feather in your cap, notch in your cap. It's a real outstanding bright point on your resume, and yeah, take pride in it. So, I mean, we can kind of, I guess, you know, if you want to move over to the next subject, we can do that. But we're gonna go to commercial break first. So with that, Hardy Complex is back in 60.